Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslima. I'm your host Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode we're going to talk about why it's necessary for you to do a full factory reset. And I know that can sound really scary, but honestly, I promise you, it's a little bit of a clickbaity title. It's not a clickbaity title. It's actually genuinely it, but it sounds scarier than it is. Okay, I don't have anything to sort of say at the top of the episode, so we're just going to dive straight in. I hope you're ready for this one. So, one of the things that I am experiencing quite often for myself, whenever I've decided that I need to change something or I want to pursue something, and also noticed in a lot of my clients and people who are following me online, is that there's almost like a hesitation or a fear or overstimulation. Is that sort of the word? Overwhelming feeling of initiating said change. So there's so much self-help information, books, podcasts, accounts, coaches, therapists, I don't know, whatever people call themselves these days, light workers and stuff, who are so ready to give you all this information, including myself, obviously. I'm counting myself as part of this. I'm not trying to put myself outside of this thing. But one thing that I think happens quite a lot, and I've spoken a little bit about this, but it's a while ago, so the information might not be at the forefront of your mind right now, is that we quite often get information overload. And so because of that, we tend to feel a little bit incapacitated. We tend to feel a little bit I don't even know where to start, what to do. And, almost as if the amount of information that we have and the amount of things that we feel like we need to change is literally paralyzing us. It's making us feel like, I don't know what to start with. There's so many things I feel like I should be doing. So doing nothing feels easier than having to find that needle in a haystack. That one thing that you should start out with before you jump straight into that haystack. I don't know if that's how the rest of the metaphor is supposed to go, but that's kind of why I feel like you would want to find a needle in a haystack. It's because you would want to roll in that haystack. No? Just me? Okay. If you want to do that with me, let me know. So finding that needle, if you don't know where to begin, it's oh my gosh, how am I supposed to find that needle? I don't know where to start with this. I don't know what to look for. I don't even know what kind of needle it is. Is it a safety pin, or is it a sewing needle? Is it one of those do you also call them needles, the ones that you knit with? Because I'm pretty sure in Danish it has the word needle in it. How big is this needle? What kind of needle am I even looking for? So do you see what I mean already? Already there's so much confusion, and that happens when we have so much information coming in at us or towards us at the same time. If I could speak, I would say stuff, but stuff is not wanting to come out of my mouth today. Isn't it wonderful? Alhamdulillah. We will try and persevere and hope for the best in the end. So that is one thing that I notice within myself as well. As I said, that happens quite a lot. As somebody who does doom scroll, who loves TikTok and social media, who loves to listen to a lot of podcasts, to read books, I feel the same thing as well. This sort of information overload of I don't know where to begin. I don't know what I need to change. And I think the major drive on this is for a lot of people, and this is where what I hear specifically from people who have worked with me, that the daunting thing is the changing part themselves. I have so many things I need to change. There's so much I need to change. That basically what you're doing now is wrong, and that you need to implement things. So it's not a question of, this is going to be easy. It's I have to bring more stuff in order for me to get my ducks in a row, in order for me to get to that next step, in order for me to achieve said thing, in order for me to feel better about myself or whatever. And so it's this sort of already overstimulation of information and things that we want to do, and people throwing stuff at us and telling us, do this, here's another task, this is a quick and easy exercise, and if you just do this one thing, then X, Y, and Z. And then on top of that, we in our own mind say to ourselves, okay, so I need to change this, that, and the other. So essentially I'm just going to add more stuff. And so no wonder a lot of us feel incapacitated. No wonder a lot of us feel paralyzed. No wonder a lot of us feel almost just numb. Like I want to do something, but I feel like I can't. I feel like I physically cannot take that step. It's kind of like, going swimming, but you're swimming in, I don't even know what it would be, but something heavy. You want to move forward, but you physically can't. It's something pushing you back. There's simply too much of whatever this heavy thing is around it. Sand, can we say that? Is sand heavy to swim in? I haven't actually tried swimming in sand, but I would imagine that it would be a lot heavier and a lot more difficult, because you feel like you have to hold on to all of that sand, or like you're surrounded by it or something like that. You guys know me and my metaphors. They never really make sense, but also at the same time, they kind of do make sense if you want them to make sense. Okay, so where does this whole factory reset situation come into play here? The factory reset is the reminder for us, because this is the one thing that I always will tell my clients, especially when they go into like, oh, it's just so many things and I have to think about, and I have to, change, and I have to apply new things. And I always say, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do any of that. And I have to remind myself of the same thing here. You don't have to do any of that. What you have to do is go back to your factory reset, the way that Allah has created you. You just have to let go of all the extra stuff and fluff and bits and bops that you've sort of chosen to carry with you because other people have told you that it is necessary for you to bring that along on your journey, and say, I choose not to take this with me anymore, and I choose to believe that the way that Allah has created me, the way that I operate best naturally, is the right way for me to be. So instead of me trying to be something I'm not, instead of me trying to trick my brain into loving something it doesn't, the moment that I'm trying to push my body into a state that it doesn't thrive in naturally, that is the moment that we experience a ton of overload and a lot of hard work. But when we go back to the way that we're supposed to be, the way that we operate, and we acknowledge and respect the boundaries and limitations within which Allah has created us, it becomes easier to get things done because you're operating within your natural element. Let me try and explain a little bit of what I mean. For instance, I feel like I've used the example before of like my voice, and how growing up, because I have a big voice, I would get a lot of people saying, oh, Zara, you're so loud, your voice carries, I could hear you from like down the street, blah, 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 you need to be more quiet, you need to be more demure, la, 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 la. And so I grew up and I had a lot of like insecurities around my voice, and feeling like I had an ugly voice, feeling very insecure about my voice, feeling like my voice was my weakness. And as I grew up and I found Allah, I came to understand that my voice is my strength. It's part of my strength. It's one of my biggest strengths. And it's not just like in terms of like volume, that in a crowd I can be heard or something like that, which is also a beautiful strength to have, but that I find myself, once I truly followed the guidance and the intuition that Allah gave me, in a position where I use my voice daily to reach people, to say things that other people need to hear, to give advice, to share knowledge, to comfort and to coach. And that comes from my voice. That is my voice that is responsible for that. And if I chose to hang on to the teachings that was something that was at least attempted to be sort of pushed into me as a young child and a young adult, I might be like, I'm not allowed to speak because my voice is ugly and it's too loud, so I shouldn't. I'm a public speaker. I've done public speaking. I've been on television, radio. I have my podcast. I'm constantly on TikTok. And my voice is a strength. And so what I didn't need to do was to add on changes, I didn't need to learn voice lessons so I could speak softer. I didn't need to learn how to speak properly so that I could articulate. My strength is the way that I speak in even at the raw times, if you've been here for a while, you'll know I'll stumble on my words. You've already heard it in this podcast. I'll make up metaphors and just kind of go with it. And yeah, it can sound clunky at times and awkward at times, but alhamdulillah, the message still is perceived on the other side. You still understand what I'm trying to say, and it is not because I'm trying to say it in different ways, because I'm trying to sound more demure or soft or something like that. It is because I am embracing what Allah has said, this is your strength. If He wanted me to be articulate in another way, He would have given me that strength. So there's nothing wrong with learning skills. So it's not like I'm saying that I shouldn't go out or I couldn't go out and learn, I don't know, some skill around public speaking or something. It's to say that me just trusting in what Allah already gave me makes my life that much easier, and actually removes a lot of that clutter and disorganization and overstimulation that otherwise was there before, because I didn't feel like I could just attack the thing that I wanted to and go for the thing. I felt like before I can say anything, before I can have a podcast, in the beginning days, I'm going to tell you, I know I completely interrupted myself. It is what it is. In the beginning days, the first time I set up a podcast, I think it was in 2018, I started with my first podcast. It doesn't exist anymore. It was called Conversations with Zara, and I set it up when I was doing my travels around Europe. And in that time, I still hadn't fully acknowledged my voice as like a tool, a vessel, a strength. I sat down and I wrote scripts for every single podcast episode. And it was so unnatural to me to speak it, because I was like, I can hear myself reading my script. I didn't like writing the script. I liked sort of ad-libbing like I do now. Every single podcast, there's no script. I might take notes, because I feel like there's certain things I want to remember more than others. And I'm like, if I don't put it down, maybe I'll forget to say this one important thing. But I feel like I've got the gift of the gab. Like, I can speak give me any country, I'll speak for it. Not any country. There's a couple of them that I definitely don't want to speak for, but you know what I mean? Like, I can talk. And it's a gift. It is a gift. It is a blessing. It is a tool. It is a strength that Allah has given me. And so before, when I didn't trust it, I made life more difficult for myself. I made the task more difficult for myself, because I was still trying to complete the task and fulfill the intuitive drive to have a podcast, for instance, by putting it into this box of you need to speak in a way that you think other people want you to speak. So you cannot stumble on your words. You cannot say and ah. You cannot say sentences that don't make sense or interrupt yourself mid-sentence because something else comes up. You can't be raw. You can't just speak, because when you speak, you get animated, or your voice races, or you start laughing and your laugh is like really loud or whatever. Like, all of these thoughts would come up. And so as a result, I tried to fit my tool into a very small box that didn't fit. And so it felt unnatural, and it became more difficult for me to stay on top of that podcast. And it didn't make me enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it, because I was like, I wish I could just sit down with the microphone and speak, but I can't do that, because in my head I had all of these preconceived notions and ideas of what it should have been like. And the moment that I recognized my voice as a tool, as a gift, as a blessing from Allah, it was probably around 2019, 2020, like end of 2019 and around 2020 was actually when I gave up that podcast, and I was like, yeah, that's not going to work, because at that point I'd already gotten tired of it. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. And I'd wrote my book, and I realized when I was doing interviews, my first book, 10 Camels for a Mirror, which, by the way, I know I don't speak a lot about it, but like, I'm a published author in Denmark, and I have a book. It's a novel, rom-com, for those of you, chick lit, for those of you who remember those kinds of books. Now everybody wants thriller and, you know, true crime and stuff like that. I still love a good rom-com-y, chick lit kind of book. If you're interested in a book like that, you know, click the link in my show notes and in the description. Go order my book. It's called 10 Camels for a Mirror. It's in Denmark, a newspaper called it The Muslim Bridget Jones. So if that's a book for you, go and check that out. It's a good, fun read, very easy read. It is also in English, and that you'll get that by the link in the bio. Anyway, so what was I going with that? Yes, but it was through writing that book and then having to do a lot of press, a lot of interviews at that time because people were interested in the book. I realized that my voice was very impactful. I couldn't practice for those interviews. I just kind of had to speak. And I received a lot of feedback from women who read the book, and also the ones who hadn't read the book but just saw the interviews and noticed that I touched on certain things and I just said the things as they were. And they were like, oh, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so happy you said that. Even when I, in that moment, thought, oh gosh, I can't believe I said it that way, or oh, did I sound a little too harsh or whatever. But people related to it. They resonated with it because I didn't try to fit it into something that I thought people were going to relate to. It was a question of just speaking off the cuff. And that's when I realized that my voice is actually very impactful just the way that it is. And that's when I started really embracing it and embracing the perceived faults that I thought I had with my voice. This whole story around my voice is just an example for you to understand that you can make the perceived change far easier for you when you realize you don't have to adopt new things in order for you to be better. What you probably have to do is let go of things that you think you need and actually just rest on who you already are. And this is why I say factory reset, because it's not that we want to forget absolutely everything. And as I said, it's not about you're not allowed to go out and learn new skills and acquire new information and so on. But it's about understanding what is actual valuable change I need to make, and when is it something that is literally just a question of me being able to rest more assuredly in who I already am, and trusting that Allah has created you already perfect the way that you are, even when you might feel like, oh, I wish he had given me this thing, or I wish he had made me this. We can all think about those things the way, like we could all have desires, like I wish Allah hadn't given me a metabolism that's like, oh look, chocolate, and then I gained 2 kilos, but alas, here we are. So, I have to work within the body that Allah has given me. Sometimes I can hear somebody speak and they have a beautiful, very soft, feminine, whispery way of speaking. And I'm like, oh, I wish I sounded that beautiful and feminine. I don't, And so instead of trying to yearn and make my life difficult to get something that I don't have and try to force something that I am not into who I am, it is far more easier for me to trust that Allah made me a specific way for a specific reason. And He made you a specific way for a specific reason also. And so every time you think you have to change, and this is going to sound harsh, please don't get your knickers in a twist, but you are subconsciously saying, Allah made a mistake and I need to correct it. I need to correct what Allah did. Astaghfirullah, right? When we think about it that way, it sounds so horrible, doesn't it? But it's the truth, because Allah has already created us in that perfection. He has already said, I'm creating you this way for a reason. And it's not to say that everything about us is perfection. It's not to say that none of us have flaws, but it's to understand how He has created us and use that to our advantage. Understand how to contain it sometimes, because some of us maybe He created not with the best patience. So it's not to say rest in that and never be patient. Sometimes it's a question of how do you acquire more patience? How do you put yourself in situations where perhaps you don't put yourself in situations that feels highly uncomfortable for you because you won't be able to bear it. Working with what Allah has given you. And sometimes it's a question of learning to restrain certain things, and sometimes it's learning to expand on certain things. But it all comes back to that factory reset. Who are we? Who did Allah create me to be? Unfortunately, though, I'm going to say this, many of us have unlearned it because we've lived long enough trying to be like everyone else that we've sort of reached a point where when we look back, we are so far away from who we once were that we can't actually see it. So sometimes you'll know what it is. You'll know that it's like, oh, but I know that the thing I really want is that thing. Or the thing that comes most naturally to me is this thing. great, follow through with that thing, however it is possible for you and however it applies to you. But sometimes it's a question of re-exploring, refining yourself, doing things, and then checking in with yourself. How does that feel? Does that feel good? Does that feel like something that came naturally to me? Usually it's a question of where that ease and flow originates from. This is ease and flow for me. This podcast is ease and flow. The difficult thing for me is not to sit here and yab. Yab? I think that's a word. I don't know. That's the easy part. This is the difficult thing for me, is potentially consistency. Simply because ADHD, and so I'm always having to fight my brain of like, no, sit down and focus, like get this thing done. Starting a project. All of my ADHD girlies out there, you'll know exactly what I mean. And then, you know, I find it very boring, the editing and the uploading, but that's because it takes a long time. I live in a cave, in case for anybody who is not watching on video and who hasn't seen, like, my home is a stone house, a very old 100-year-old stone house in Sicily. And so there's very bad connection. So that means that when I upload anything to the internet, it takes very long, like a 30-minute podcast takes me a good 5 hours to upload on both my Spotify and then onto YouTube. So it's a full day, and so I can get very annoyed with it, and I can be like, I don't want to do it. But the podcast itself is very easy to me, and it's very easy for me to find the flow once I start talking. It's very easy. It's actually sometimes really difficult for me to stop talking once I've started talking. And so in the beginning also there's that, like, oh, is it allowed to be this easy? Is it allowed to be this easy for me just to do it? I should be struggling more. If I'm not working hard, if it's not difficult for me, or if it's not hard for me, then maybe I should do more. Maybe I need more structure. Maybe I need to edit more stuff into it. Maybe I need to X, Y. No, it's allowed to be easy. It's allowed to be just naturally flowing. And you find that ease and flow when you do things that Allah created, that natural skill in you, within you. What? You know what I mean? Where Allah naturally created that skill for you. I think that's the way to end a sentence, I think. But when we do things that come naturally to us, we find that ease and we find that flow, and it becomes easier for us just to enjoy life and make money the way we want to make money, have relationships the way we want to have relationships, accept ourselves, forgive ourselves, love ourselves. Even, you know, self-acceptance, self-love comes when we stop thinking that we are faulty, that something is wrong with us and we need to change or correct it. But instead, when we say, Allah created me for a reason, now let me do my work and say, I appreciate how Allah created me. Now, how can I use this to the best of my ability? Okay. So in the beginning, at the very least, it can take a little bit of time to get to that point. My awakening, for instance, to my voice, that sounds so much greater than it is, but, you know, my awakening, or sort of like coming to that conscious moment of like, oh, I get it now, didn't happen overnight. It happened because I tried some things and I kind of just trusted in where I was being guided. But it wasn't because I was thinking to myself, I need to figure out how to be okay with my voice. It was something that came as a byproduct of doing another thing that Allah gave me a skill in, which is writing. And so, you know, it just kind of popped up from me doing another thing. So maybe it starts with you from doing one thing, and then you'll realize by doing that one thing that it kind of bleeds into other areas where you're like, oh, I'm actually really good at this, or actually I really enjoy this, or this comes really naturally to me, or whatever it might be. And then you start discovering yourself, and you start discovering that natural reset, that factory reset place that you were created in, where you're comfortable. So all of this essentially to say to you that when you're feeling this overwhelm, when you're feeling like, oh my God, just another exercise to do, this isn't even an exercise for you to do. This is, well, I don't know, you can look at it if you want it as an exercise. This is permission. What I'm doing right now, like, you can look at it however you want to, but what I'm ultimately trying to give you right now is permission. I'm giving you permission to let go of everything you think you have to be. You already are what you need to be. You already are the person. Let me say that again to you, because I don't know that you fully understand the first time. And if you don't, I need to make sure you get it. You don't need to be anything else than who you are. You already are the person that is capable of getting whatever that you want, to have a beautiful life. You don't need to change anything about yourself. You don't need to adopt other personality traits or mimic other people. You already are enough. Everything that you have and was created with is already sufficient to get you to that success that you crave. Your thing is just to accept it and allow yourself to run with it. Okay? Let go. It is, if you want to look at it as an exercise, I pray that you see this as the easiest exercise in the world, because all you have to do is literally throw out stuff, whether it's being like mindful habits that you've tried to sort of pick up on because you're trying to force yourself to be something that you're not. If it's, excuse me for saying this, but friendships, books that you feel like you have to read because other people are reading it, podcasts that you're listening to, music, clothes, because you're trying to fit into an aesthetic that doesn't feel natural or feel comfortable to you. Whatever it is, let go, get rid of it. It's not necessary. You're already exactly who you're meant to be, because Allah already created that person in perfection. Okay? Perfection is the way Allah creates. That doesn't mean we are without flaw. It means that everything we're supposed to have is already in us. We already have it. We contain it already. We don't need to look at it from the outside and find it outside. The only thing we need from the outside is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Yeah, it'll be nice to have friends and stuff, but the friends that follow in that natural alignment with who you actually are, not friends that want you to act and be a specific way so you can never just be yourself around them. Do you see what I mean? So I'm actually sorry, I just saw myself in the camera and I look absolutely mad. I'm actually going to stop here because I don't want to overburden you with even more stuff, because that is literally it. That is it. I can go on and talk about this for years and years and years, because I find it so important and so interesting to have this conversation. But I'm not going to continue to do that. I feel like if you need more on this, re-listen to this episode, really take it in, understand the message, and take in the permission. Accept the permission that I'm giving you. Who am I to give you permission? I'm no one. I'm Zara. Who am I? Nobody. But if you lacked that permission before, if no one else has ever given you that permission in the past, I'm giving it to you now. I'm giving it to you now, and you can say, well, Zara said. And then whoever complains about it, you can send them my way. I'm good with that. But I'm going to leave you with this information and with the information that I've shared. And if there is any questions around this, if you have any comments or anything, or you just in general would like to delve a little bit deeper with this, or have got some insight on your own that you'd like to share with me, then consider joining the membership, because we have these kinds of conversations over on the membership. All the ladies and I there, we have these kinds of conversations all the time, because we all need to be reminded that it's not about changing who you are. It's about resting more assuredly in who you were created to be, instead of trying to mimic other people or copy or whatever else it might be. So the membership, I think it's $14.99 a month. We meet twice a week, every Monday. This is a new thing, by the way, which I'm really excited about. Yes, I'm going to do a little promo. Every Monday we do a training now. So I do like a live training with the women on Mondays, and then the Thursdays is like an open conversation, open chat. So if you'd like one of the conversations or the trainings, just to let you know, actually, this evening, Monday the 11th, we're talking about fear and how to handle fear mindset. Monday the 18th of August, we're doing energy work, specifically focusing on gratitude. On Monday the 25th, we're going to talk about who Allah is to you. So if you're interested in one of these trainings, for $14.99, you join the membership and join one of the meetings on the Monday, and that's when we do these trainings. All right, my darling, that is all. Oh, by the way, link in the bio, blah, blah, blah. You know all that stuff. You're not an idiot. So there we go. All right, my love, that is where I will love you and leave you. I hope to see you, inshallah, on Monday next week for another episode. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.